Hello YouTubers, this is Cessna Ace back again with another NES Game Collection video. First up for this video, a game from American Sammy, Ninja Crusaders. Okay, next up is a Homebrew. By the way, there's going to be a Homebrew update at the end of this video. You'll notice that it is still factory sealed. It's a game that I bought from RetroZone, and it was developed by Gradual Games, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that the game has since been re-released by Gradual Games themselves. Nomelos, Storming the Castle. Now down in the left-hand corner, it says cartridge production by RetroZone, and then gives their website, www.retrousb.com. I can't get focus to cooperate with me. As is the case with all of their releases, it has their official seal of quality. Now, all RetroZone releases come in their own brand new boards with brand new cartridge shells, and they come with the Cyclone chip, which makes them compatible with NTSC and PAL. I've said all that numerous times before. As this is still sealed, I don't know what color the cartridge is. But I have red in my collection, and green, and blue, and clear. Okay, this next one from High Tech Expressions was originally released with a pair of 3D glasses, but it is quite playable without them. Orb 3D. But as far as I know, the NES never had their own pair of 3D glasses peripheral like the Sega Master System did. Okay, next up from Virgin Games, this is a port of a PC title. Back when I bought the PC version, I spent many hours playing it, probably too many hours, but I quite enjoyed the game. Overlord. Maybe I just like war sims that take place in outer space. Okay, one of the many unlicensed publishers for the NES in the US. Tengen. This isn't my best looking Tengen cartridge, cosmetically speaking. I have some that look so good they look like they came right out of a box that was shrink wrapped. But this one is not one of those. Pac-Man. Now, as I've stated before, Tengen was the only unlicensed publisher in the US to not use a voltage spike on the 10NES chip to get around that. Of course, the way they got around that was unethical, and US courts forced them to stop selling games for the NES in the US, which is what Nintendo wanted. But they kept publishing games for the Master System in Europe, and of course for the Genesis in the US, and probably the Mega Drive too, And I believe they also were a licensed publisher for the Super Nintendo in the US. Anyway, from Hot Bee. Hopefully I pronounced this correctly. If I don't, somebody will correct me. I'm going with Palamedes. Might just be Palamedes, but that too is a guess. Okay, you can never go wrong with pinball. If you've ever been to my Facebook page, you know I'm a big pinball fan because there is a photo up top, my banner photo, is a line of pinball machines. And so, video pinball is one of my favorite video game genres. That and racing games. I'm a sucker for racing games. This, I believe, was a launch title. It is from Nintendo, part of the Action series, creatively entitled Pinball. I believe there was a game simply entitled Pinball for the 2600. Okay, another pinball game. This one from Jaleco. Jaleco was one of the publishers, by the way, that began publishing games from Tengen. Once Tengen was forced to stop, Tengen simply licensed them to other publishers like Jaleco and Mindscape. Anyway, this is, I'm not saying this is one of them. Pinball Quest. But I do have games from Mindscape and Jaleco. The copyright information says quite clearly, copyright such and such a date, Tengen. Now, Tengen was a division of Atari Games. That would be the arcade side of Atari. When Warner Brothers sold off Atari, they sold it off into two parts. Half went to a group of investors who bought the arcade division, which began releasing games for home consoles under the Tengen name, and the other half they sold to Jack Tramiel, who was the founder and former CEO of Commodore, and that part was renamed Atari Corporation. I know you didn't ask. Okay. Another pinball game, Pinbot. I think it's the design, because my camera's autofocus doesn't like to focus on this one. I noticed that when I bought this game from Bulletproof Software. Pipe Dream. See if I sneak up on it, maybe, or maybe not. Here we go. Okay, I believe this was a launch title for the NES. If not, it was a fairly early release based on the arcade original. I know because it says right on the face label, Arcade Classic Series. Popeye. Now my theory on the original that's above where it says Popeye is that they didn't want to confuse consumers who might think that this was a game based on the movie Popeye, which I did see in a theater, and I have on VHS and Laserdisc and DVD. And here's a game from Taito. Power Blade. From SNK, POW, Prisoners of War. Okay, now one of the unlicensed publishers in the US that did use a voltage spike to confuse the 10 NES chip was Camerica. Camerica released all the titles for the NES in the US that were Codemasters games. And all 4 of these are Codemasters games. This is a 4-in-1 cartridge. The games are Boomerang Kid, Super Robin Hood, Treasure Island Dizzy, and Linus Spacehead. Now, all of the Camerica cartridges that I have are either gold or silver. This is Quattro Adventure. That's the name of this release. And as I believe I stated in a previous video, that dip switch on the back was to switch between NTSC and PAL. Okay, this is the only other release I have that's part of the Quattro series from Camerica, but there were others. One I know was Quattro Arcade. This is Quattro Sports, but unlike Quattro Adventure, it doesn't say what the games are on the front. One is called, I believe, BMX Simulator, and one of the other ones has Simulator in the title, but I don't remember which one it was. Anyway, one is a baseball game, one is a soccer game, one a tennis game, and one BMX Simulator is exactly what it sounds like. Okay, from Jaleco, Racket Attack. I believe this game from Nintendo was developed by Square, but I believe it was originally released with 3D glasses, the red-blue kind. Rad Racer. Now the follow-up was published by Square themselves, Rad Racer 2. Okay, from Nintendo, part of their Action series. The game was originally from Broderbund. I suppose they could have licensed it. Raid on Bungling Bay. Okay, This is from Acclaim, Rambo. Now for the Sega Master System, I have Rambo First Blood Part 2, and I have Rambo 3, but I don't think this game was released for the Sega Master System. Okay, another port of an arcade game, and I don't know. The game is from Jaleco. Trying to read. The arcade original was from Atari Games. So this is one of the ones that has a copyright date and indicates the copyright belongs to Tengen. Rampart. I also have this for the Master System, the European release of it, and I believe that was published by Tengen. Unless my memory is playing tricks on me. This is one of those games that if you went to arcades back then, and I did quite a lot, you played this game and you couldn't escape it. Alright, now this is one of the games that Tengen released two ways. They first released it as a licensed title, which is how they got the code to bypass the 10NES chip, and then they subsequently re-released it unlicensed. RBI Baseball. This is the unlicensed version. RBI Baseball again. I have 3 copies of the same game. RBI Baseball 2. RBI Baseball 3. Now, I believe there is a homebrew that's a graphical hack of RBI Baseball called RBI Baseball 2014, which uses players and stats from 2014. If I got the year right. Okay, from High Tech Expressions. Remote Control, based on a TV series no one remembers from MTV. The official video game version of MTV's worthless game of useless TV knowledge. Rescue, the Embassy Mission. Don't follow me. Okay, this is another game that I played all the time in the arcades. This release is from Mindscape. The copyright is from Tengen. So my guess would be that the original arcade game was from Atari Games. This game I finished. I was determined to finish it because when I played it in the arcades, this version, like the arcade version, allows you to skip levels periodically. And I was determined to get to the end of that game without skipping levels. I poured so many quarters into it trying to do that and never did. So I was determined to do it with this port, and I did. If I remember correctly, there were 50 levels. Okay, this one looks kind of ratty. Need to do something about that. From Jalico, Robo Warrior. From NTVIC, Rockin' Ball. Reminds me of a game I have for my Sega SG-1000. Well, I don't have a Sega SG-1000, but I have a Japanese Master System in addition to my Western Master System. And the SG-1000 saw a game called Rockin' Bolt. Bolt. B-O-L-T. Different game though. Okay, Bandai released this adaptation of a Disney film, The Rocketeer. I have a set of the Rocketeer trading cards, if that matters to anyone. Well, even if it doesn't, I do. Okay. I don't know if this is going to show up as nicely as it shows up in person, if that makes sense. From Tengen, Roadrunner. When I saw this at Game Over many moons ago, I couldn't believe my luck. Nowadays, they would probably have this behind glass, because the unlicensed titles for the NES, if they're in decent shape, they tend to wind up behind glass. Okay, from Sika, not Sega, Sika. I take it the game was originally published for the Famicom by Kemco. Anyway, Rocket Ranger. Okay, and I'll stop this video with this one so that I can get to my homebrew update. From HAL America, another pinball game, Rollerball. Wasn't there a film called Rollerball with James Caan? Or am I thinking of a different film? I went to the movies so often back then, a lot of it is just a blur. Anyway, as I mentioned in a previous video, I have ordered 3 homebrews. One for a console that I have bought many a homebrew for, and 2 are homebrews for a console I have never bought games for. I'll say that. I just got confirmation today that has shipped. Secondly, I have placed an order for two, I guess you could call them aftermarket games, from Super Fighter Team. Beggar Prince for the Genesis / Mega Drive is going back into print briefly. So if you want a copy of Beggar Prince and missed out the first 3 or 4 times it was released, you need to go to Super Fighter Team's website. Just type in Super Fighter Team, all one word, and it'll be listed right at the top. And pre-order Beggar Prince. Back when that game first heard about it, everybody was talking about it within the gaming community that I was communicating with back then. Everybody was talking about Beggar Prince, Beggar Prince, Beggar Prince, and they finally got their Beggar Prince then. And I went to Super Fighter Team, and it had sold out. They had a production run of it, and that game was originally released, I believe, as a pirated release for the Mega Drive in Taiwan, if I'm remembering the correct game. That's what Super Fighter Team does. They license games that were originally very buggy and released in Asia, and they debug them and localize them for English-speaking audiences, and then re-release them and make them compatible with the Genesis on top of the Mega Drive. It went into print a second time, and they took some more bugs out, and then a third time when they took more bugs out, and I believe it had a fourth run and took more bugs out, and then it was gone. And I remember sending an email to the president of Super Fighter Team asking him when the next production run was going to be, and he said there wasn't going to be one. They had already had more runs of that game than any other homebrew had, and it wasn't going back into production. Well, now they're celebrating some kind of anniversary at Super Fighter Team, so they're offering it again. So this is either the 4th or the 5th run for Beggar Prince. So if you want a copy of Beggar Prince, now is the time to pre-order. There are 2 different boxes to click, one for North America and one for elsewhere. So, I mean, yes, the elsewhere is more expensive, but the price for shipping is extra too. I mean, it costs them more. That's what I'm saying. Trying to. Finally, I am in contact with someone who has created homebrews for a console I have never seen cartridges of homebrews for, if that makes any sense. I've seen them as downloads to be played on emulators, but I have never seen them released for the actual console, playable in an actual console, is what I'm trying to say. Well, he has offered 2 of his games on cartridges. Now, the cartridge shells are recycled, but all of the electronics inside, the board and everything, are brand new. The cases are brand new, although they're universal cases, but that doesn't matter to me. And they come with a nice printed manual and all that stuff. He's making up 1 copy each of both of the homebrews that he has created for this console. Now, when I get the package from him, I will show them. In fact, I'm thinking about doing a separate series devoted entirely to homebrews, because I buy so many homebrews. As I believe I've already mentioned in a previous video, I now have 47 homebrews for various systems. But now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 homebrews coming for 1, 2, 3, 4 different systems. So I might need to start doing just a separate homebrew ads series to cover all of those, And I'm just babbling now. It's late, so I need to stop and start uploading. Until next time, don't forget to comment, rate, and subscribe, and stay awesome. Green and blue and clear. Okay, this next one from High Tech Expressions was originally released with a pair of 3D glasses, but it is quite playable without them. Orb 3D. Hello YouTubers, this is Cessna Ace back again with another NES Game Collection video. First up for this video, a game from American Sammy, Ninja Crusaders. Okay, next up is a homebrew. By the way, there's going to be a homebrew update at the end of this video. You'll notice now down in the left hand corner it says cartridge production by RetroZone, and then gives their website www.retrousb.com. I can't get focus to cooperate with me. As is the case with all of their releases, it has their official seal of quality. Now, all RetroZone releases come in their own brand new boards with brand new cartridge shells, and they come with the Cyclone chip, which makes them compatible with NTSC and PAL. I've said all that numerous times before. As this is still sealed, I don't know what color the cartridge is. But I have red in my collection, and just that it is still factory sealed. It's a game that I bought from RetroZone, and it was developed by Gradual Games, but I believe, if I'm not mistaken, that the game has since been re-released by Gradual Games themselves. Nomelos, Storming the Castle.